in environmental and social impact management as we go to this era with so much pipeline infrastructure, so we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. So I think I'll say that we do construction very well. All staff have shown us. But there are things we don't do very well. And you look at us as a people, we don't do maintenance very well. We are not interested in maintenance. Operations management and maintenance is a problem for us. We can build things, we can't maintain. Therefore, we must deliberately build the competence for operations management and maintenance. Very, very important. Now, of course, I call it right-of-way management. I call it effective use of the land. So today, everybody is taking his own land to go and build his own infrastructure. Is that how it's going to be? So we need to integrate and collaborate. And we need to look at emergency response systems. When we build robust gas pipeline systems and a mistake on a gas system, we can have cities engulfed in flames. So we need to think of effective emergency response systems so that we then are able to respond. When the inevitable happens, we can be able to deal with it. What are the other things? The manpower. Do we have the technical manpower to manage robust gas line systems? The question is no, we don't have. We need skilled technicians. When you talk of gas systems and gas is pouring everywhere, we need very skilled technicians that are certified, that can work, that can change small valves, that can do all sorts of things. Because if you don't have them, then the accidents will just keep increasing. So we need to look at our complete educational system to make sure that we have the fit-for-purpose manpower, and then, of course, the research and development that allows us to be able to develop solutions to what is local here. Then the last thing is the support, what I call service. The support, what you call industries. Pipelines. We need to produce them locally. But what are the other things? Valve system, control systems, and all the other things that will support this. It provides an opportunity for a thriving local industry. But we need to make sure that also follows, because then it's sustainable. Like I told some people outside, very easy. We have a problem. We take a plane, go to UK, go to America. We go to OTC, we're looking for technology. So I told them, when are we going to develop our own technology here? When we did take a plane and come to Nigeria to come to our own OTC to see what we've developed. And we're very happy about those trips. I'm going to OTC, I'm going to UK, I'm going to that conference. When are they going to come here and see what we've developed? I think we have an opportunity with this decade of gas and building robust pipeline systems to turn the tide. So just some critical success factors, I call them 3. I say learn, learn, and learn. And today I'm going to challenge us. What have we learned in the last 60 years in oil and gas in Nigeria? We talk about the oil and gas pipelines. What have we learned? And which library will I go to as a young person who is 10 years old, who is 15 years old, who will be 20 years old in the next 10 years? Where will I go to? Which library will I go to learn the mistakes of the past so I don't repeat it? What you see is we have a problem because all the knowledge is with us here. That means if we don't find a means of making sure that what we have learned is kept somewhere, the next generation, they'll do worse mistakes than us. So we don't have a national database. So I think Plan and Nipitecs provides a platform for us to start. Let the mistakes of the past. There were many mistakes that we made in the past. There were many errors that we made. Let them be properly documented so that the next generation can then pick it up. Because what I call it, a generation is existing in the industry today. People that were there in the 70s till now, they're exiting the industry today. So what is going to happen to the next generation coming? We must provide a database for them. We must learn from our mistakes. We must learn from nations that have done the same thing. Then our CEO has a new word he has taught us. It's called Imagineering. Imagine and engineer. Now, we must imagine how the future looks like. What is that future? And then begin to engineer. We must imagine the system and begin to engineer it. That is the only way that we can succeed. So just some few challenges and opportunities. So regulatory framework, right regulatory framework. We're in the world of artificial intelligence and all those things. Do we have the right regulatory framework? Like I talk about technical education, you know. The people that repair cars, they don't have any certification. And sometimes they fix the car, you enter the car, you go and have an accident, the brake fails. There's no, technical education is almost dead in our country. Skilled people that can fix things, whether plumbing or what. Now, in building robust pipeline system, especially for gas, we cannot afford that kind of error and mistake. That anybody by the road, where did you learn to do work? Now they learn how to do work. Okay, come and fix this system for us. No, it's not going to work. So we must go back to technical education, right regulatory framework that allows us to begin to get the right kind of manpower and the right kind of systems that will allow us to operate safely. Funding and business management. So I like what has been said today. Actually, the pipeline transportation is a business opportunity, but we need to run the business management side of it so that it becomes profitable. Then someone can fund it. Someone can fund it. So we need to run the economics of just a pipeline infrastructure company and then make it profitable. Then we can get funding for it. What are the other environmental and social impacts management? Very, very important. I think this is one of the biggest lessons of the last 6 years in our industry. The EIA, the social impact assessment, doesn't need to be a file that is kept inside an office. It needs to be summarily implemented in the local community. Very, very important. If not, we'll repeat the mistakes of the last 60 years. Then, of course, R&D, innovation and partnerships. I don't think there's any country in Africa that has per capita the amount of universities that we have. So we have to put a demand on the higher institutions, research and development. Every year, thousands of and they graduate less than 5. So why is there a gap between us and the tertiary institutions? You know, Petronas, I work in Petronas. And Petronas have a university. So in my role as a pipeline engineer in Petronas, we had regular connection with the universities, the Petronas University. Therefore, as we have problems, they were
critical. Of course, the speaker is a renowned leader. The speaker is a renowned leader in engineering and regulatory practices. Engineer Professor Sadiq Abubakar, FNAE, FNSE, IAEE, President of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering and Nigeria, Koren. Ladies and gentlemen, today he is ably represented by a professor of chemical engineering. Session titled "Building Robust."
Thank you very much. I think I have the presentation. Can you please? It is there. Thank you very much. This is a presentation to be delivered by the president of Koren, who is right now in Ilorin, Kwara State, for another very important assignment. So he asked me to adequately represent him here. I hope I could do that. As you can see the first slide, the title of the presentation is Building a Robust Five-Line System for the Decade of Gas. Specifically, we are going to emphasize the role of engineering, regulation, and enforcement. In fact, I will take from the previous speaker, he really indicated clearly among the challenges for this next decade, the issue of regulatory framework. So next slide shows for Nigeria's industrial development. We have to look at all the requirements, all the infrastructure, and importantly, the regulatory framework to make sure that we achieve all what we have been talking about. As we know, pipeline is a very vital infrastructure for oil and gas. We have listened to speakers in the morning. I remember Engineer Said Mohammed talk about for the last 60 years, we have been having 5 line, and now Academy of Engineering declared our 5 line to be asset of national importance, both for the next decade, 2021 to 2023, 2030. But then, of course, we have the issue of frequent 5 line failures that will threaten this vision. We have all sorts of ways where the 5 line will fail. I'm going to elaborate on that later. And therefore, we need very strong engineering oversight in terms of how do we regulate, how do we bring the code of practice, how do we bring the enabling laws to make sure that this important infrastructure is protected. Next slide shows the 4 key points on the strategic importance of pipeline. The first and the most important is the energy security. Pipeline transport energy around the country. It's like the veins that carry flows around the system. So anywhere in the country, you talk about in Malaysia, where even households receive directly gas from pipeline. So really it improves our energy security. And because of the linkage to industry, it helps in the economic growth. And of course, the environmental benefits by making sure that we have sustainable pipeline system. And then, of course, finally, the integration of different systems we have in Nigeria. We talk about National Gas Expansion Program. We talk about the AKK, the Ajakuta, Kaduna kind of pipeline. All these are going to be of importance towards Nigeria. Or common challenges. We mentioned earlier, we have the issue of aging infrastructure. Some of our pipelines, they have been around for more than 60 years. What happened to the upgrade, the leakages, the codes, the leakages, what do we do about them? Number 2, we have deliberate sabotage and vandalism. And in fact, I could imagine the AKK going all the way to northern Nigeria. Who is going to protect it? What is last year when we had deliberate destruction of our power supply and we could not get power in some section of the north. So imagine this bandit, if they know what is in the pipeline and the kind of havoc they can cause by just breaking the pipeline in cities. He mentioned that. So we have to look at the issue of sabotage, and we have to bring robust regulatory framework and laws that will protect this important national asset. And of course, we have to be transparent and sustainable when we develop the structure in the first place. He talked about the important issue of we can always construct, but the maintenance and sustainability are key problems. So these are really the challenges we have. Next slide shows another important aspect, that the role of regulation. Korean Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria is a sole government agency responsible for regulation of engineering in all its ramifications. So the issue of pipeline, the construction, the code of practice is very important for Korean. And of course, we are aware about the key requirement in the PIA. So Korean will work with plan to make sure that we have clear regulatory framework for the next decade, to make sure that we have our pipelines well protected. The second part is Korean also regulates the education. How do we meet the common requirement in terms of the technologies, technicians, and engineers? In fact, I'll be very happy to announce that Korea now is working towards joining International Engineering Alliance that consists of Washington Accord, Sydney Accord, and the Bloom Accord. I'm sure some of you are aware. So that will force Nigeria to operate in line with other countries like Malaysia, for example. So this is in line actually with what Korea is doing, and it's just a matter of collaborating with the plan and other agencies and organizations to make sure that we meet those important requirements. So regulating the system as it is, and then training manpower to meet the requirement. And of course, organizations such as NCDMB, already Korea has existing MOU and collaboration. We can all work together to make sure that this vision for the next decade is achieved with the relevant regulatory framework. Next slide. We emphasize this case of AKK, which is very important for opening the importance of gas for northern Nigerian industrialization. Beyond that, I understand that it will cross into Sahara, even to Europe. So this is very important development, and we need to really have relevant regulation and framework. Another important point is the Niger Delta 5-line failures we have seen. In fact, the previous speaker has been emphasizing the mistakes in the past. How do we document that? How do we avoid those mistakes? And I could see them coming. There's no way you can have 5-line AKK, 303 kilometers, and with bandit around, without somebody imagining what to do to sabotage. So really, we need to sit down and try to find out what do we do. Do we bring drones? Do we develop some AI technology? But it's going to come. 100%, I can assure you, some bad guys will try to sabotage. Next slide is how do we now strengthen our enforcement? So Korean will be very happy to have joint committee with all the relevant agencies, NUPRC, NMDPRA, NCMDMB, to have joint understanding of what to do, because we cannot work separately in silos, because we're all involved, we're all part of it, and each agency has its own responsibility. Sometimes they are overlapping. So what do we do to see the next decade? Because very important point the previous speaker was emphasizing. As we move out from the front row, what happened to the next on the line? And there must be something we leave for them in terms of coming together, having a joint committee so that everything is done together. How do we conduct regular engineering audit of our pipelines? In other countries, this is normal daily process. But in Nigeria, we miss our audit. We miss what we're supposed to do. So how could Korea make sure that we do audit as at when due? It is very important. Because for pipeline, any slight mistakes could be very expensive in terms of leakages, in terms of fire, etc. How do you implement the pipeline integrity management system? So that there'll be a system that can proactively tells you what's wrong with our system. If there's any leakage or potential for leakage, how do you now take care of that system without any problem happening? Again, Korean would be very happy to work with plan to make sure that we have regulation in imposing pipeline integrity management system. And then transparency and data sharing. It's very important. We have different pipelines in the country, some private, some government. How do you share ideas? How do you come together to make sure that we are having the same understanding of the system? And eventually, how do you enforce? Because Korean can have the regulation, can have the codes, but we need to work together to make sure that whatever we see is wrong, somebody imposes it, and then there will be improvement in the system. Next slide shows the future of gas pipeline. We have been talking about different understanding. In fact, we listen to Imagineering, but the AKK would expand across Sahara. And then there will be evolving standard and new technologies. New is evolving. But whatever we need based on our local needs, we are ready to regulate and control. Lastly, on the future, the issue of local capacity development. When are we going to stop importing this very simple technology? Because most of them are very simple, straightforward. But unfortunately, we only wait and import and import. In fact, by this time, Nigeria is supposed to stop importing pipeline because it's something that is well established, well known. It's no longer new technology. Right? So why should we be importing? We have the material. The design is very simple. So really, we need to develop our local capacity. And then we have the regulatory framework that stops importation of something as simple as pipeline. Then finally, my next slide shows the simple conclusion that this very important discussion here, the decade of the gas, is both an opportunity and a challenge. Opportunity to open our gas to different industry, because I understand that Nigeria is not an oil producing country. Nigeria is a gas country. How do you really use that for industrialization? As a chemical engineer, I know gas can be used for all sorts of products. In fact, you can break your methane into synthetic crude oil, into all sorts of products. So gas really is very important for the industry. Power supply, etc. But then, develop this gas pipeline and gas industry within a kind of very sustainable framework. And then number three, how do you come together with all the agencies responsible with having overlapping responsibility? Committee that has COREN, NCDMB, NUPRC, and other agencies, so that when we talk about gas pipeline, we talk with one voice.
Of course, you've heard from Professor Baba El Yakubu that in pipeline infrastructure collaboration enable impact across the pipeline sector. With extensive experience in pipeline operations, security management, and integrated surveillance solutions, Engineer Omotosho Oboro has been at
transport phenomenon and all that. I'm a chemical engineer, and yeah, that's basically what it is. Because I remember one of my questions, the first question I went for in terms of interview, and somebody asked me, how do you move things? And I said, well, somebody taught me transport phenomenon, and that was as simple as that. So I want to, on this note, observe all protocols as usual. I want to be as